a not-for-profit organization, and myself, welcome you all to the talk number 13 of this series, which is named as 4H, Urban Horticulture for Health and Happiness. BSHF is thankful to Bayer Seminis to sponsor this webinar series. I am happy to welcome co-organizers Dr. Pritam Kalia, ICAR Rafi Ahmed Kidwai Awardee, former head, Division of Vegetable Science and coordinator, School of Horticulture Sciences, ICAR-IARI New Delhi, and Dr. Shailendra Rajan, former director, ICAR-Central Institute of Subtropical Horticulture, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. The webinar today is on Nutritional Security in Urban Farming by Dr. Shruti Pavagadhi, Senior Manager at Environmental Research Institute of National University of Singapore. They call it NERI, National University of Singapore Environmental Research Institute, Singapore. Thanks to Dr. Shruti for having agreed to speak on the topic in a webinar today. Friends, today's talk is again on urban farming, leading to much needed nutritional security. Though food security not yet globally 100% guaranteed, but nutritional security is becoming important due to number of factors, and rapid urbanization is one of the important ones. The nutritional crops, mainly fresh vegetable and fruits, availability in urban areas are not only in great demand, but their freshness and nutrition in them are being demanded by the customers. These qualities can be met or managed better by local production of these, means urban farming. Urban areas are known for not having arable land. Under such situation, how enough fresh food can be produced in urban areas is one aspect of the talk today. The second aspect of the talk is nutritive fresh food availability locally in place like Singapore, where arable land is not there. Third aspect is economic viability of the systems developed for urban farming. The speaker this evening is from National University Singapore, will be speaking on above aspects, in addition to her own research work done and in progress towards achieving requirement I just mentioned. Friends, questions can be raised in comment or chat box, which will be answered after the talk. Now I request Dr. Pritam Kalia to formally introduce the speaker. Dr. Kalia, sir.
Thank you, sir. Oh, ಇದು ಬಂದು Yes, sir. Sir.
Yes, speak. What is the problem? Please speak.
Hello, sir. Are you getting me?
No, your voice is there, but you speak.
Hello, sir.
Baba.
Are you getting me?
Oh, yes, we are getting you. Hello. Hello. Dr. Kalia, what happened? As usual, I think
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
some.
Yes.
Yes, yes, please speak.
Okay, sir. Just a minute, sir. Good evening, friends. Most respected Professor Brahm Singh ji, founder BSHF, co-organizer Dr. Shailendra Rajan ji, and today's speaker Dr. Shruti Pavagadhi, who will be speaking on nutrition security in urban farming, a very important topic, and she is directly connected from Singapore. Dr. Shruti Pavagadhi finished her postgraduate training in food science and nutrition from the University of Delhi, India, with the gold medal. She was associated with some of the biggest fast-moving consumer goods and premier food research institutes in India. Dr. Shruti pursued her doctoral studies on emerging environmental concerns and global challenges at National University of Singapore. Currently, she is working on integrated urban farming solutions for sustainable crop production in Singapore. Dr. Shruti is managing several projects in domain of agricultural and environmental ecosystems. She has frequently interfaces with local urban farmers, government agencies, and other academic departments. Dr. Shruti has over 12 years of research expertise in multiple disciplinary areas, from farm to fork, and more than 30 publications she has in peer-reviewed publications, books, and conference proceedings. Dr. Shri is also actively mentoring, and advising several startups from India in agri-food and sustainability domain. So, with a lot of experience in the area of our speech, we expect her to deliver most wanted uh, wanted aspect nutritional security in urban farming, and not standing for a long time between the viewers and speakers. I would therefore invite Dr. Shruti to take the floor and deliver her talk. Dr. Shruti, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pritam. So, firstly, good evening and good morning, depending on the time zone that you are watching this video from. I would like to take this opportunity first to thank BSHF, and the organizer of these sessions of these webinars, Dr. Brahma Singh, and also the two co-organizers, Dr. Pritam and Dr. Shailendra. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Now, without further ado, if it's okay, I can go ahead and share my screen.
Kindly go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope my
Ye-
screen is visible to everyone and it's in
Yes,
full screen
yes,
mode. Okay.
yes.
Okay. So, as both the organizer and the co-organizer had introduced the topic for the day, so I'd be talking about the nutritional security in urban farming with special emphasis on Singapore. So that's the place I am at, right? And I've spent more than 12 years in Singapore. And out of these 12 years, about 5 to 6 years, last 5 to 6 years, have been uh, within the agri food ecosystem and landscape in Singapore. So I'd be sharing some of the things that we have done as a group, and some things from our collaborators, also some other things which are slightly on the parallel tracks. And yeah, so before I start, I would want to set the context here, that why are we talking about nutritional security. So I'll cover both the things of my uh, topic. First, nutritional security, and then we would come to urban farming, and then I link both the things together, that why there is a need to have to ensure nutritional security in urban farming, and how are the ways, different ways we could do it. So first things first, what why are we talking about food and nutritional security? So increasingly in the pandemic, you would have seen articles flowing in about supply chain disruptions, food insecurity and things. So let's look at some numbers. So this is a census from 2020, where they found that about 155 million people across countries or globally experienced food insecurity in 2020. And interestingly, a lot of them, a huge majority, vast majority, is coming from Africa, Middle East, Asia, and some other places. So why is it important? Why do we highlight some of these places? That's because some of these places are going to see a rapid increase in population growth. So if you see here, these are the projection for population growth, and among the high income countries, there is less population growth that is expected, while some of the low and middle income countries, as you saw here, there is going to be tremendous increase in population. So we have one problem, that they are facing food insecurity currently, and on top of that, they're going to experience a rapid population growth. To compound this problem, a lot of people in these countries or from these geographical locations would be migrating towards cities. So there would be urbanization. It's still, I mean, it is going on already, it is there, and but it would even increase further. And the reason being, in hunt of better opportunities, in hunt of better standards of living, better quality of living, people are leaving the rural centers where they earlier used to be, and abandoning their traditional jobs such as agriculture occupations, and then moving to cities for better opportunities. So this would be the reality. So there are three problems now, as we saw. First, that some of these countries are having a very big disadvantage here, because they are facing population growth. They are already having food insecurity. On top of that, they would have a demographic transition within them. So what does that mean for food and nutrition security and the sustainable development goals? So what's the bigger picture? So these are the three problems that we just learned, but what's the bigger picture? How do they relate to the sustainable development goals? So as we would know, there are 17 sustainable goals. These are the mandates that globally we wish to achieve in a particular, in a determined timeline. Out of these 17 SGDs, three of them, SGD 1, 2, and 3, are focused entirely on food security and food and nutrition security, rather. And all these three, the success of these three SGDs will actually underpin the success of all the other SGDs. So these all the other SGDs are actually linked to the food security. So the economic, the social, let's say the life on land, on climate change, responsible consumption, sustainable cities, all of these goals are very much linked to the food and nutrition security goal, or the SGD 1, 2, 3. So that's the importance of this. So it's not just for those countries which we just learned, where they are facing food insecurity, but it's also for global situation, that this can have a bigger impact than what we would have thought. And what would be the cost of malnutrition? Okay, so before going into the specifics, I'll also introduce this term malnutrition. So if, let's say, we are not able to meet food and nutritional security, we would lead to a state of malnutrition. So this is a state where earlier we used to call it double burden of malnutrition, where we had on one side undernutrition, and on the other side we had obesity related things. So again, these are all due to lifestyle changes. However, in terms of food insecurity, undernutrition and micronutrient deficiency would be a better fit here, at least for the scope of this talk. So I would keep it to that. While obesity is linked to dietary changes and habits and things, but I think that's out of the scope, at least for now. So coming back to the question of how big a cost that we would need to pay globally if we do not ensure that we achieve global food security, food and nutrition security. So that could be tremendous though. So the cost is, of course, as lost productivity, because if people are undernourished, your community, your populations are undernourished, as kids they wouldn't grow as adults who would be able to function well, or who would be able to be productive for the global economy. So there's a lot of cost involved here, and that would go back to some of these SGDs, uh, and it will also if affect them. So just cutting long story short, food and nutritional security underpins the success of all the other SDGs. So this is how important it is. But now the problem here is that we just don't have food security issue. It's also compounded by the demographic transition. It's compounded by the population growth, also climate change. There are a lot of other challenges that we face today. So what do we do about it? Is there any answer? So of course, if we are moving closer to the city, if people start living near cities and a lot of people are leaving their villages, the intuitive way to look at food security would be to farm in the cities, to bring farming closer to the city, or how we call it now, urban agriculture, which is not a very new concept. It has been known even in the past. However, in the recent times, it has gained a lot of prominence, specifically due to the increased access and also the advancements that has happened. Technological advancements has led to better access. So even poor countries, like, even some of the other nations which were not able to access earlier some of these technologies, are now able to take advantage of this. So this could support food and nutritional security. Of course, there are some things which probably at this point, the formats that we have for urban agriculture might not support, but there are other crops that they can support, and they are doing so, at least in some of the examples of the cities that I've been reading about. It has supported food and nutritional security in a good significant way. And I would also like to highlight here that it's just not about the food and nutrition, food security, but it also brings in the other benefits along, like a host of economic benefits. Of course, it will create job opportunities, more disposable income for the urban dwellers. It would also create a host of other ecosystem services, which we'll see later, because a lot of our research that we do in our group is actually focused on harnessing some of these ecosystem services, along with ensuring food and food security. So some of these services are enhanced biodiversity. So of course, when you farm vegetables, you would bring along other things. You'd bring along insects, you'd bring along pollinators, you'd bring along microbes. You would and all of them together would also help to coordinate or better regulate hydrological cycles or nutrient cycles and things. So this would greatly improve environmental quality for the urban dwellers. So there are a lot of benefits to urban agricultures apart from food and nutrition security. But since our topic today is on nutrition security, I'll stick mainly to that. But this is just to give an overview for the readers. So if they have more interest, they could go and look at this reference to find more details. Now, talking about urban agriculture, I would now introduce the local landscape that we have here in Singapore, because as most of you would know, we are a small nation. So we are slightly limited on land availability, arable land availability, and also we are limited on other resources like water, energy. So this is just a problem of any small nation and highly urbanized nation. And this is an example for all the other cities also, which are coming up, which are becoming highly urbanized. They would also face similar challenges where you would need to source most of your food from outside. So that's why Singapore has now, so the government has created 3 local food baskets to address some of these challenges and bring diversity and also bring food resilience. So I'll focus here out of the 3 basket. First is, of course, diversifying the sources from where they are importing. Also, we have Grow Overseas program where we are doing contract farming and growing food outside. But there is also another basket where we are boosting our capacities to produce uh, vegetables and crops locally. And this is where we've set up a very ambitious goal of being nutritionally 30% nutritionally reliant by 2030. So that we call it as 30 by 30 vision. And so the government currently is moving towards it. So it's fueling a lot of things along the agri-food ecosystem to be able to achieve this goal and to be able to be nutritionally secure. And of course, we would want to do this with less. So we want to grow more with less. We want to grow more above. We want to have achieve more yield. Not just yield, we also want to achieve better nutritional quality with less resources and adopting sustainable means. So, as I just mentioned, just to build this type of build our vision and to achieve some of our objectives, government is doing a lot of other things to bring together the ecosystem, to tie in together with different stakeholders. So it's helping the urban farmers who would want to go ahead and open an urban farm, grow their own produce. And they're also helping people like us who are more into research and academic mainstay, and also some of the entrepreneurial aspects to bring in some of these innovations, fuel them, and bring it together to translate into meaningful outcomes. So these are some of the things that they are doing, and we are also part of some of these initiatives, which I'll talk later as we go into the talk. So we have now a lot of good facilities, resources, where test bedding sites where we could test some of these prototypes, we could validate some of our outcomes, we could achieve higher technological readiness levels, and we could go to the market. And this they are doing for several domains. So within the food and nutritional aspect, we are looking at fruits and vegetables. We are also looking at seafood and a source of alternate proteins. So this is slightly old. This is from 2019. Just an evolving Singapore agri-food landscape. I thought this would be very good to put in here. And if someone who's interested could look into this article, it was a very good article, very informative on how our landscape is transforming. So there are startups in here, there are entities, there are facilitators, there are consulting firms, there are food tech companies. So there are a lot of people involved who are building this ecosystem, and we are also involved somewhere there, connected to the stakeholders. So we mainly interface with research innovation side and also on the translation side, which I'll come later on. But this was more about the agri-tech landscape, the local agri-tech landscape. And so now coming about what do we do, and coming to the mainstream of the talk, where I'll be talking more about our initiatives on building nutritional securities. So we work on systems-based, integrated, and eco-inspired approaches. So our approaches are very ecological in nature, very intuitive. So you would think they're very intuitive because they are nature-based for building food resilience and nutritional security. So we look at it as a nexus. So we see them together. So we see food security, climate resilience, energy efficiency, and nutritional security as a nexus. So they work together. So a lot of our projects have interrelated or interlinked themes where we could have, let's say, climate resilience and nutritional security as focus, or food and nutritional security as one focus, and energy and nutritional as another aspect. So that is how we work. And these are some of our ongoing projects. And I'd be sharing more from some of the case studies that we have from some of these projects later. And our approach is, firstly, I'd like to highlight it's multidisciplinary. That's because we are aiming to achieve something very unprecedented. So because we want to have both food security, nutritional security, we also want to adopt sustainable means to achieve it. And so to have all this, we need an holistic approach, and that calls in for a multidisciplinary action. So action from various streams. So we collaborate with different faculties, different departments, and we adopt a lot of integrated approach, like as you see here, one you see here, where we are moving from farm to lab to farm. So we have this approach where we look at all the things together: growth of the plants, nutritional assessment for the plants in urban agriculture, and also some of the defense mechanisms, so that we again boost the growth. Because if we build in plant defense and good defense mechanisms, it will further boost the plant growth and it will help plant health, which in turn lead to good plant nutrition and better nutrition quality for the consumers. And so using this paradigm, we develop some of the integrated solutions, like which leads to savings. Of course, most of our solutions are based on that. They are also circular because we are using a lot of waste resource streams, and again getting them back into the system as nutritional supplement or things like that, soil supplements. And we also, of course, it leads to increase in nutritional value and yield. So for my talk, I'd focus mainly on this part of it because it's focused on nutritional aspect here. But for the other aspects, you could look at our papers and publications and resources for more details. And so how do we do this? How are we able to achieve our desired thing, that we move all the way from farm to lab to farm? And so what are the integrated approaches that we adopt? So here I would like to just highlight, this is slightly technical but and quite busy, but I'll make it easier for you. So we go right at the fundamental base of the plant. So we look at how the plant is interacting with the environment, with the chemicals that are around coming from the environment. It can be nutrients, it can be microbes that are there in its surrounding environment. So the chemicals that are released by the microbes, it could be any sort of metabolite. So we try to understand that dialogue between the plants, because that's very important. We feel that's the background. We believe that's the background and the foundation for the way plant interacts and the way plant develops, almost very similar to how we humans function. Then we try to identify the drivers within the system that are available that could affect the health and resilience of the system, because we look at it as a systems. As I said, we adopt a system based approach. So we don't take plant in isolation, we look at it in as a system. So we consider plant, its environment, microbe, everything, nutrients that we give, everything in totality. So we try to identify what are the drivers that affect plant health and the resilience. Then we evaluate some relationships, and from there we develop products, services, solutions, management practices to enhance nutritional quality traits and characteristics. So this is how we go. So this is a very systematic approach where we go all the way from discovering something, then identifying, then validating, all the way to the productization or the translation solution. So these are the steps. These are the validation and the productization are the phases where we very closely interface with, let's say, startups. We work with government agencies. We work with our farm partners to validate some of our products in operational environment. And these are some of the repositories and resources we have created. Of course, with we have a fairly good big group, But along with our group, we have our collaborators, we have a lot of people with whom we work across departments, and through everyone's efforts, we've built a lot of repositories and resources which are available to a great extent, and we are making advancements there to be shared more openly and freely in free available spaces. But at this point, we have a lot of we have information on the microbial genomes, genes for plant growth and protection. We have information on microbial chemicals for soil conditioning. So you may wonder, how is this related to nutritional quality? But to your surprise, I'll show you later in the slides. You would see how this is linked to nutritional security, or rather the nutritional quality, I would like to call it that way. So microbes play a role in plant health and ultimately plant nutrition. Of course, the genes that we have identified, they are also important for us to develop products. Also, the microbial chemicals, which we can use again in our products for conditioning soil, priming our substrates or whatnot in soilless systems. We also have some libraries. We have a lot of microbial isolates, which we have started to see they work for both soil and soilless systems, interestingly. And these are all home derived. So we've gotten it from Singapore urban soils here, right here. And along with our partners, with our farm partners, of course, we work with them. And we also have developed, apart from these biotechnological, biological, chemical advances, we've also developed a lot of imaging systems and automations and database pipelines to capture some of these associations, of course, to help us develop better products and more efficient products. And so that brings me to one of our projects. This is one of our flagship project in the group, where we are looking at enhancing the nutritional quality of green leafy vegetables grown in Singapore. So these are all urban farmed green leafy vegetables that we are talking about here. What you see is very commonly eaten Southeast Asian vegetables. So in our study, we had taken three vegetables: choisum, kailan, and bayam. They are very commonly consumed in this part, and I think across Southeast Asia. So and also they are very easy to be farmed in urban settings, be it hydroponics or substrate base. So that's why we chose these green leafy vegetables. And here, as I had mentioned earlier in my slide about the integrated approach, this is one example where we have built that connection, where so we have four interlinked themes. So where first theme is bringing growth and beneficial nutrients in vegetables. So they are responsible mainly to look at growth condition, growth formats, and nutritional assessment of vegetables. While the other theme, which is our theme mainly, I mean, we work on this most of the times on the microbial solutions to build in the nutritional aspect, to build in the yield and nutritional quality. And we also have agrotechnologies, where we have colleagues from engineering side and food technology who are working together to improve some of the light efficiencies and things, again, to help with the nutritional quality of the vegetables. And then, of course, we have an aspect of integration, where we integrate the learnings from all the three sub projects and build it together as a system. So first, I would talk more about this effective microbial solutions part, and later on, I'll give some case studies from agrotechnologies, and I'll also give some case studies from the nutrient side. So before we talk more about microbiomes, or I share more about our results from microbiomes, I would like to bring this slide up, where I would like to emphasize the role of microbiomes for food and nutritional security. So associations between microbes and plants have been known for decades. It's a very, very old association. And we all know that these associations render a lot of ecosystem services to the plants. And so our aim is to harness some of these benefits of microbiomes, because we believe these are nature derived solutions, these are nature based solutions, and these are very non GMO sort of approaches to adopt to boost food and nutrition security. And of course, this will give us more from less, because it's for microbes to grow, it doesn't take much. You know that. I mean, microbes can flourish anywhere and everywhere as long as the conditions are right for them. So this is really one very good example where we can derive more from less. We give microbes and then get their benefits and get a host of other multitude of benefits, actually even more than what I've written here. I've just mentioned three: yield, performance, efficiency, but there are a host of other things that they bring along with them as an ecosystem. So that brings me to one of our case study which we had done with our farm partner, Singapore urban farm partner, where we had gone and sampled three local green vegetables, as I mentioned, choisam, kaila, and bayam. And we had isolated microbes. We had harvested microbes from different soil niches. We had soil, we had different compartments, and we could find 910 microbial genomes. This is a soil based example of a soil based, but I would also mention later how we employed it in soilless techniques as well, that we are employing in our group. So although the knowledge was generated from soil based farm, but we have implemented the solution in soilless systems as well. And this is almost the biggest resource of plants associated microbial genomes for an urban setting. And of course, this exhibit a lot of potential for providing major ecosystem services, as I just mentioned. So now that we have these genomes, we've already teased apart the functional benefits or the functional potential that they bring along. And based on that, we cultured a lot of these microbes and brought them into products. So as some of the things are under invention disclosure in the process of disclosures, so I wouldn't be able to share those results here in the open space, but we'd be very happy to answer few targeted queries, or if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer on one offline, or I would try to answer online if possible. But in a sense, we found a lot of nutritional and health resilient traits from these microbes, which could then be incorporated or through inoculations, or through seed dressings into the plant, which could boost the yield, both the food and the nutritional quality of the crops. And now I'd move to our other sub project, which I had mentioned on the nutritional quality, where we identified a number of nutritional metabolites that are different at different growth stages. So this is important because in an urban farm, we do see very clearly some of the growth stages, and a farmer has the capacity to harvest them because these are short cycle crop. Most of the urban farm crops are short cycle or mid cycle range. So the farmers have the ability to harvest them at the time that they would want. So here it's important for us to know that the nutritional quality changes, or it basically is different rather between different growth stages. So this has implications. This could mean that if you prefer to have a specific nutrient, you might find a certain stage more suitable for that application, let's say for a food application or food product development or something of that sort. So here, for example, we found that essential amino acids, which you see here on this side, they decreased, and plant sugars increased from microgreens to seedlings. So as we move from microgreens to seedling, amino acids decreased. So if, let's say, someone is looking for a supplement which can give them a good host of good amount of amino acid, then the choice would be the microgreen rather than seedling. So this is a good information for the farmers. It's a value add information for the farmers to be able to then see what should be their harvest time and also to market their products accordingly. And also we found changes in carotenoids, vitamin K, and some of the results are not here, but we also found changes in minerals, because I mentioned about the micronutrient deficiency. So we also found there were stark differences in the metal and nutrient and the iron concentrations between the different growth stages. I would also encourage all of you to read this paper if you need more details on this. Moving to the next thing that we tried to see. So this particular study was more focused on nutritional metabolites, but we also have an aspect of nutraceuticals, because as we would know that now the food preferences are changing, dietary trends are changing, people are moving towards concept of functional food ingredients or concept of nutraceuticals, and increasingly people would like to get these nutraceuticals right from the food they eat rather than from the pills that they need to pop. So basically people are looking for more nature sources or more plant based sources through which they can get some of these things. And these nutraceuticals come with a host of human health benefits. So here, for example, we are looking at glucosinolate, which has cardioprotective benefits. It also has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory benefits as well. So we examined the fluctuations, or let's say the changes in glucosinolates under different lighting regimes, because we all know all urban farms have their own light settings, so based on their technologies that they employ or based on the settings that they are operating it. But these different lighting regimes can have stark impacts or effects or influence rather on some of these nutraceutical profiles or phytochemicals. I would like to call it phytochemical rather. And so this is also an important finding, because if let's say we are looking for a value add, or you're looking for even extracting some nutraceuticals out of these plant-based products for a downstream process, or rather if you're looking at consuming the crop right away, this sort of information could be very useful for the farmer, because then the farmer can optimize and can do his cost benefit analysis and make informed decisions on how to how would he want to optimize the conditions in his farm, ensuring the, because if let's say there are certain light conditions which are not making much changes to the nutrients, then they could rather reduce the conditions, reduce the light efficiencies to save, to make savings rather to go overboard on it. So we also measured at the same time growths as well for the different um, lighting regimes. And apart from the impact on the phytochemicals, there is also an impact on metabolite composition. So these are, of course, nutraceuticals and phytochemicals are also metabolites, but these are mainly in terms of antioxidant capacity, like total antioxidant capacity or total phenolic content. So that's why we called it like that. But we also observed there is stark differences or changes when you switch from low light to high light, and it impacts the phenolic content, it impacts the antioxidant capacity. And what is the implication of that for human health? Of course, we would want foods which gives us a lot of antioxidants, because as you would know, we are exposed to, in urban cities, especially in urban centers, we are exposed to a lot of anthropogenic chemicals, a lot of toxicants, and we need a good amount of antioxidants in our body to be able to fight some of these chemicals and to be able to detoxify. So that's where this is very important to know. How can we, because we won't be able to change the 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 exposure. I mean, of course we could limit it, but we won't be able to prevent the exposure. But we could always develop better crops, we could always develop more crops with proper nutrition to fight some of these things. And these are some of the outreach events and some of the other things that we do to showcase these case studies that I just highlighted here. So quick recap, we went through almost four of them. One field farm study where we looked at the microbiomes, then we looked at how the nutritional assessment for different growth stages, and we looked at the nutraceuticals under different lighting regimes. We look at how the light intensity plays a role in some of these as well. So a lot of it we try to bring it out or at suitable platforms wherever possible, and we bring it out to public, we bring it out to suitable forums, and yeah, and I'd be more than happy to share more about it. If someone is interested, we can share more links and resources that we have. And coming to some of our other aspects that we are looking at, so these were our advanced stage projects, but we also have some early stage projects that we are working on, where we are looking more from another side. So till now we were looking very much focused on the farm side, but now we are trying to go beyond that, and we are looking directly how things can impact consumption, and how things can how we can make better impact, or how we can make better contribution to the life of consumers. So one such a study, this is from our collaborator with whom we are working on the new project. So I'll come to the new project in a while, but I'll just mention that about their study, where they've recovered a lot of functional food ingredients from urban farm vegetables. So this is sweet potato, and so they've recovered pectin from the sweet potato leaves, and they have shown its suitability as a food ingredient. So pectin, you would know, it's used in a lot of food products. A lot of food products can be developed with it because of its ability to hold water, and also to give that gelling like consistency. So it has a lot of uses. So this we are looking to explore further and go beyond one step, looking at how we can cultivate our own sweet potato in an urban farm format, so without soil typical soil cultivation. And then how do we get some of these functional ingredients out, and then look at how does it affect the consumer. So we are also looking at other functional ingredients, not just pectin. We are also working with some other glycosides. Again, it's under a disclosure, so I won't be able to talk much about it, but we are working on them. And some of these glycosides that we have found are shown to have a very promising anti-obesity effects. So we are also looking to do more assessments, in vitro assessments, to find out how can we develop higher value products out of that. And last part on this, I would touch a little bit on another project that we are just beginning to start. So this is more on sensory attributes, and also related to flavors, colors. Again, all of this is related to nutritional quality, because most of the flavor or the color that you see comes from pigments and host of other chemicals, which are actually nutritional in their nature. So they are giving some sort of benefit to us, either in terms of maybe nutraceutical benefit or nutrient benefit. So we are also looking at how can we bring better connections between below ground, be it soil or soil less, and bring it up in there in the flavor. And so we are more looking towards connecting the below and above ground together to get these transformations. And some of these technologies and methodologies that we adopt, we've written about it in one of our review articles. So we would encourage everyone to go through that, and if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer. And this is a project. This is a publication that I found from one of the other institutes which are working in Singapore on urban farming as well. It's called DISTAP, and they are a part of SMART, the MIT Alliance. So they are working on portable Raman leaf clip sensors for rapid detection of plant stress. So someone might ask, how is plant stress related to nutritional security or nutritional quality? But I would like to here mention that plant health equals to plant nutrition. So if you ensure plant is in good health, automatically plant will have good nutrition. So healthy plant would also lead to better yield. Healthy plant would also mean better nutrient quality for all of us. So some of these technologies are very important. Some of these advancements are also going to be play very big role in building nutritional security for urban farming. And it would not just be what are the nutrient solutions that we are going to add in our farms, or the microbes or the lighting systems, but also some of these technologies. It will also assist us. And last but not the least, I would like to mention the role of IoT and automation for nutritional security. So this would also play a very big role. It has already started coming into play, but I think in the coming years we would see more and more use of it, more and more use of automation, more and more use of precision farming techniques. And how that would help to build nutritional security is that you could be getting a lot of feedbacks through communication gateways that you can set up by employing some of these technologies. So these communication gateways could actually serve as feedbacks from plants directly to the farmers, that okay, let's say plant need this because plant is facing a stress, and if you give this nutrient it will be able to face this stress. So farmer will immediately channelize and release that nutrient into the system. So this would also help to mitigate some of these challenges and build nutritious crops. So with this, I'll just sum up some of the things which I would like people to take away with them from this session, because we touched upon a lot of things on microbial and chemical ecology as I presented some of the case studies. We also touched upon how important it is to look at plant physiology to build nutritional security. That was in one of my last slide where I was talking about plant health equals to plant nutrition and equals to human nutrition. So to ensure plant is healthy, we have to look beyond the nutrient media, or we have to look beyond the lighting systems. We have to actually have the physiology all integrated together. So we have to have the physiology, we have to have the environmental parameters. Only if we have both these parameters along with your other things like lighting regimes or your nutrient solutions and your other systems, you would be able to ensure better plant health. And this plant health will ensure overall food and nutrition security. So healthy plants will lead to healthy us and healthy planet. So that's my takeaway message that I would like to tell everyone. And with that, I would also like to acknowledge a lot of people here without whom I don't think I would have been able to present these slides, these beautiful looking slides to you. First of all our grantors for all these projects, our host institutes who have helped us seamlessly and tirelessly in our journey to achieve some of these things. Our lab management, all the research team members, our PIs, our group, all the group PIs, co-PIs, and the research team members, our farm partners, collaborators, Singapore Food Agency, also the National Parks Board, and all our academic collaborators. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to me, for your patience, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Shruti, for taking us to a different level of farming, where human health, plant health, you have nicely linked. We will be talking a little later. I request Dr. Rajan sir, would you like to just moderate the talk?
Thank you very much, sir. It was a nice presentation by Dr. Shruti from NERI, Singapore, particularly focusing on the nutritional security in urban farming. We should say it is oriented on, I think it is, she has coined the word urban agriculture, but urban farming, but it was most of the horticulture crops were covered. So beautifully relationship between the population growth, urban nutrition, food security, and sustainable development were introduced by her. And the reasons and challenges which are there in future for the nutritional security, those were introduced. Particularly alternatives as a urban agriculture, there is a need, and what are the advantage of that? Those have been narrated with the background of Singapore. But how the import, local growing, and the growing overseas, the concept of 30-30 vision of Singapore it is somewhat a great work plan for fulfilling the requirements of a country. So Singapore agri-food ecosystem, how it is there we have seen in her talk, and we could adopt many of the things in our country also. But the detailed key areas of the research and how the and those are focus for the food security, and particularly in light of climate resilience that she has given beautifully narrated with her slides. The importance of the multidisciplinary approach was the one of the main theme, which is involving multi-stakeholders and collaborators, particularly making the urban farming successful for the quality yield as well as the quality produce. Then understanding the plants for enhancing the quality traits and characteristics under controlled environment, that is but natural, easier in these type of studies, and that is leading towards understanding how the plants can be made more quality wise superior. The different data repository, how those are important from nutrition for nutritional security, she has indicated with all data repository related to the microbiomes, then other data repository. Those will be more important sometimes when we will progressing further. Then example of green leafy vegetables which are native to the Singapore, how the nutrients are involved, how improvement in the nutrients, then why microbes can be utilized, agrotechniques can be implemented, and integration towards the value-added vegetables. There's vegetable that is the action plan she has given, and it is beautiful to see. And most of the efforts which have been made in Singapore targeting urban agriculture, those are related with the horticulture, and particularly stress on the role of the microbes in the urban agriculture in relation to the ecosystem services will be important. Then microgreens, example of microgreens where how the changing changes in the bioactive compounds or the nutraceuticals from the initial stages to the seedling stage. So this will give the idea for the produce quality, and definitely it is going to be affecting the cost of the product also. How artificial light regimes can be influenced, may be useful for influencing the phytochemical profiles of the plants, that is more important, and farm conditions and quality aspects, specifying the light regime which can be controlled very well in urban farming, that is important. Then recovering food integrants from the urban farmed vegetables, it may be one of the area, but most of the time the vegetables which are farmed in urban areas, those will be directly consumed with having the good quality. Uh, then enhancing sensory attributes is one of the important uh, part of the urban vegetable production, and if the controls are there with the farmer in the farmer's hand, it will be going to be fruitful. Plant health and good nutritional quality, sensing through the portable Raman leaf clip sensor. That is one of the example how the stress can be uh, tackled, particularly in these type of farms. IoT and automation, which is becoming an important part of the major, and it is a major component of the urban horticulture. She has stressed about it also, and joining hands with the plant physiologists, microbiologists, then chemical ecology people, molecular biologists, and food and nutrition security people, horticulturists. All this team will make the this urban horticulture more successful. And the future components of the urban horticulture will be including all of this. We are thankful to her for giving uh, excellent talk on this area, basically flagging some of the new issues, and those dimensions can be very well picked by the researchers who are working on the urban horticulture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. Dr. Kalia, would you like to add what all Dr. Rajan has said? No repetition, sir. Addition only.
Yes, sir. It was a nice, excellent, more scientific talk that we have had based on wonderful data repository that she has shown, and also she has mentioned that genome sequencing of the crops that is being utilized for identification of genes which is very important that they are working on ecosystem based, not simple plant based aspect. So that's a very good approach to unravel various mysteries of plant growth and nutrient factors that can be exploited. But she talked about the nutraceutical, which is very important aspect, as she also spoke about the microgreens and how to harness the nutraceuticals present at that early stage, as the microgreen industry is also increasing now in India. And those viewers who had been listening, and also the researchers who had been listening, there is a lot of content for them to pick up and initiate their nutritional breeding programs. As for glucosinolates, which is very important aspect, because the crops she's mentioned is from Brassicaceae family, and there are a lot of glucosinolates across these Brassica families. And in this trisom, I think it was gluco Brassicin which was mentioned. But we need to know that how much, because these are very important anti-cancerous compounds, and if we have crops with which are rich in different types of glucosinolates, then further research can be carried out to have a comparative study on these different types, like we have Sinigrin, glucoraphanin, glucobrassicin she mentioned, and there are many others which are present in like kale, Brussels sprout, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower. They are all rich sources of different type of glucosinolates. I think this is a good presentation that we have had, much more scientific, not the general study, which is giving very thoughtful program for the future. And to mention that way, it's a futuristic type of talk, which gives us much more confidence that we have much more to come to handle the malnutrition problem that she has mentioned, which is causing problem that every now and then we look at India at third and fourth place from the bottom from malnutrition point of view. How to tackle that? So that's why the nutritional security related presentations or talks become very important to understand, so that the new programs are initiated based on that. As she has mentioned, that amino acids also are more in microgreen stage. So that means that way it's highlighted that microgreens inclusion in our diet is important aspects. I think there is a lot more, as she has given a lot of references. So those who are interested to do research in these areas, they can look in those, or those who are interested for nutrition, knowing much more about the nutrition, they can also attend those different I mean, papers and get more ideas. I think we have had good scientific presentation, and our viewers must have been benefited. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kalia. Dr. Shruti, uh, uh, audience have not asked any query so far. So the organizer must ask some question. Otherwise, speaker won't be happy. So to make the speaker happy, madam, you are concentrating on hydroponics in Singapore, in leafy vegetables, which you talked about.
Yes.
And you made a mention of microbes and microbiomes. We use RO water for raising the crop. So how do the microbe and microbiomes crop up, and at what
Okay.
stage?
Okay. So that's a good question, and we get this type of question from a lot of urban farmers also, who ask us that, we are using sterile condition. How can we use microbes inside? But to their surprise, they do keep seeing pathogen attacks. So if there were no microbes in the first place, how did they get pathogen? They were using HEPA filters, very high capacity. Of course, you mentioned RO water. They are also using something of that sort. So the thing is that actually seed also has its own native microbiome. So seed contains microbes also. So it's like this, and it's known that seed also has its own microbes which it brings along. So you won't be able to make a system that's sterile. And I have seen papers, although there are very limited papers on this aspect. I have seen one paper where they have shown microbiome of a lettuce which is grown in a hydroponic system. Very, very few papers, only couple of them. And so that's why we also thought we should do microbiome surveillance in urban farms. And so we are attempting that. So we are working with our urban farm partners that we have here to do something of this scale, so that we can clear this type of misconception that it is microbe free. But to your question, another question, that okay, if we want to get some of our products, because we have developed products which are from microbiomes, and so how can we employ the microbiomes in a liquid solution, and also where there is a chance of cross contamination, because it's a closed loop system circulation. So for that also we are working on some solutions where we are getting passive benefits from the microbes. So we won't really actively add a microbe inside, but we are working with our engineering colleagues to develop or design a system in such a way that passively we will get the service from the microbe. Let's say, for example, the service is you want a specific type of nutrient transformation, which might be done by microbe. Let's say for a nitrogen cycle. So for that, we are looking to get these benefits in a indirect way, not directly, but we would not. So basically, in a passive way, we won't really directly introduce microbe itself into the system. So that's one way we are looking. Another way to look at it is by developing foliar sprays. So we don't really disturb the nutrient solution. But for foliar spray, there is a caveat that a lot of these microbes are not into the regulatory framework yet. So some of them are recognized as biostimulants, and I think EU has some regulatory framework to identify them for their safety. But for many others, we don't. So if we use foliar spray, and let's say this is for salad greens, then it would be difficult for people to sell that produce. So that, but that's another thing that we are looking at. Third way you could get the microbes would be at the stage when they are at seedling, because you might germinate them in some sort of substrate and then bring the seedlings into the hydroponic setup. So at that stage you could do it. So that's another way. So there are ways to work around it.
Very good, very good. Yes, you are right. Uh, good. It can be discussed at length, but good answer. The another funny thing I would ask you, we are very fussy about. This is my personal word. Please, those who are listening should not get offended. Craze for organic produce. Craze for organic produce. Everybody wants organic produce, as if fertilizers are creating problems in the human body, not only in environment but in human body also. Can we think of microbial so-called fertilizer which can supply or can meet all the requirement of the nutrients of the plant? Is it possible? If
I
yes,
know,
how?
okay, I know we could reduce the need of fertilizer, but it would also depend, if you are asking me, it will also depend upon the status, the initial baseline status that you are looking at. So let's say for a soil-based system, if your soil is already extremely degraded, it's going to be very difficult to get a microbe to give you entirely by itself. It will be difficult for the microbe because it has to source from somewhere, right? How will it source? You either give a organic thing, okay, and it converts it to a inorganic form and gives it to plant. That it can do, yes. But if your baseline is you are going with a very degraded type of system, then of course microbe, it will require some time for microbe to pick it up. So you can reduce, so you will reduce the footprint by reducing the amount of fertilizer that you add in, but you won't be able to completely remove it. And for soilless system, which completely depends on a nutrient media, for such a system, uh, if you use some offline method, you could use alternate sources, let's say, of nutrients, instead of using a source, let's say, which is causing problem where people think it's a chemical fertilizer. So you can probably use a cost effective source rather, and maybe more environment friendly source, and give it to microbe, and microbe can transform it into the right form, right nutrient form, and give it to the plant. So that's possible. So that bit is possible, but completely eliminating at this point, I think we have not reached that stage yet, at least for hydroponics. No, soil based, it will depend on where your soil baseline is. I mean, this is my thought. But I think we should attempt or aim to reach that stage where we are able to give that.
Oh, good, good. I'm wondering whether microbe-based or microbial fertilizer alone can meet all the requirement of some plants, not every plant. Some
I think
plants
some, yes,
like a
grass or,
certain.
yeah, it depends.
Uh,
I think grass, it should
uh,
be okay.
oh, grass is a different thing. We are talking about the food crops.
Yes.
Uh, so, because you rightly said that we should grow healthy plants if you want to have to be healthy. Human health is directly linked with the healthy food, and healthy food is linked with the healthy plant growth. You rightly pointed out that that's there. So objective is to have the healthy plants. And since people are now, I don't know why they are becoming so allergic to fertilizers. Leave aside the pesticide and weedicide, etc. But even fertilizer, people are averse to that. Though I'm fully aware, everything will come in ionic form. Plant absorb only in ionic form. Water is
Yeah.
coming from X source, Y source, Z source, or whatever it is. That is there. I'm very clear about that. But even then, to satisfy the people, that it is coming from the organic source.
Yes.
Organic source, not inorganic source. And among the organic source, microbes are I consider them as a better choice because they
Yes.
have played host of role in plant growth, which you also highlighted, and others.
Yes.
And there are a lot of literature on that.
Yes.
That they are even the nutraceutical can be developed with the help of
Yeah. You can give them a cheap
you,
source. So we
you,
don't have to, like, yeah, like
yes,
how
yes.
we are developing right now for urea. We had a lot of issue recently in recent months about nitrogen fertilizer costs going very high. So I think
Hmm.
some of those things can definitely be addressed if we employ microbiomes right. But there are, of course, a lot of challenges. So I wouldn't say I would want to give both sides here because it's an open talk. So there are still a lot of challenges because a lot of microbiome based solutions meet problems when it is employed in large field trials. So although they might be successful, so that's why it's important, like, to adopt a system based circular approach like what we have, where we take from the place and we go back, give it back there. So there, that's where it works because it's native to that. But if you try to introduce something which is not really native, it gets outcompeted a lot of times because it's a living organism, right? So we have to, of course, respect the boundaries of living organisms.
Anyway, from your talk, at least I picked up the word circular, and we should emphasize on that. Nothing should go waste, should be utilized. Whatever we are growing, we use resources for that. It should not go waste. So the circular one should be utilized for something or the other, the useful purpose, and have more from less, less of the inputs than. And we wish you good luck, you, your team, and others, those who are engaged in 30-30, meeting the 30% requirement of fresh food requirement locally, Singapore, without having arable land. Good luck in that, and we are
Thank you.
looking so that the others can follow, the urban areas can follow you. They are looking towards you, how you are able to meet the requirement of that. This is becoming much more important in the present day political scenario on the globe. So with these words, we thank you profusely, Dr. Shruti, for again I use the word taking us to the next level of production, utilization, and utilization. I mean that circular one which you have emphasized upon. Very informative talk as Dr. Rajan and Dr. Pritam Kalia has emphasized. Thank you so much. Thanks to you, your institute, your colleagues, and those who have helped you in this, and the work of the scientists who have quoted. They also deserve our appreciation. Good work. With these words, thanks one and all, and we meet again next Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Shivangi, do you have the poster ready? Shivangi, if you have, yes, it is there, the DDG Agriculture Engineering, Dr. Ashan Jhaji is going to speak on agroponics and vertical farming, but the engineering aspect of that, design considerations, very important aspect. We generally ignore that. We talk about the manure, spacing, care, etc. All that we don't discuss on what you are growing it. So design consideration in vertical farming and agroponics, which are picking up throughout the world, he will be talking about. You are welcome to attend his talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night. Good night.